He is one of modern pop's most fascinating and divisive figures. To his millions of devoted fans, Huang Zitao is a multi-talented artist and fearless businessman who fought his way out of a restrictive system. To his detractors, he is a master manipulator who faked injuries and betrayed his bandmates for fame and fortune. This is the story of his two lives, the carefully crafted characters he plays on screen, and the explosive, controversial reality he lives off of it. We trace his journey from K-pop idol to C-pop emperor to find the truth. For more deep dives like this, subscribe to our channel. He exploded onto the K-pop scene not just as another handsome face in a perfectly synchronized boy band, but as a force of nature. When Huang Zitao, then known to the world simply as Tao, was introduced as a member of EXO in 2012, he brought a unique and electrifying energy. He was the group's martial arts specialist, a walking, talking special effect. In music videos and live performances, he would execute flawless flips, powerful kicks, and graceful wushu forms that left audiences breathless. This wasn't just a gimmick, it was a genuine skill honed since childhood, and it gave him an undeniable edge. His intense, feline eyes, often accentuated with dark eyeliner, projected a fierce image that contrasted sharply with his off-stage personality. Fans quickly nicknamed him Kung Fu Panda, a nod to his powerful skills and his surprisingly soft, sometimes goofy, and deeply emotional nature that became apparent in reality, shows, and interviews. He was the member who wasn't afraid to cry, who wore his heart on his sleeve, and who seemed to feel everything with a raw intensity. This combination of fierce performer and sensitive soul was magnetic. He was the cool, mysterious warrior who would also cling to his fellow members like a younger brother. This duality made him incredibly compelling and helped him build a dedicated fan base who felt a deep, protective connection to him. But the intense physical demands of being a K-pop idol, especially one who incorporated high-level acrobatics into his routines, began to take their toll. The first signs of trouble were subtle: a slight limp, a missed performance, a brief mention of an injury. Soon, these small incidents snowballed into a major, recurring problem. His ankle, in particular, became a source of constant pain and a frequent reason for his absence from group schedules. For the fans who followed EXO's every move, his empty spot on stage became a familiar and worrying sight. The company, SM Entertainment, would release statements about his need to rest and recover, but the cycle of injury, brief recovery, and re-injury seemed endless. This period was fraught with anxiety for his supporters. Was the company pushing him too hard? Was he sacrificing his long-term health for the sake of performance? The narrative began to shift from celebrating his incredible physical talents to worrying about their cost. The image of the invincible martial artist was slowly being replaced by the image of a young man in constant pain, a vulnerability that only deepened his fans' protective instincts. The situation escalated dramatically when a new voice entered the public conversation: his father. In a lengthy, emotional letter posted online, Huang Zitao's father laid out a heartbreaking case. He detailed his son's numerous injuries, the lack of proper care from the company, and his own anguish as a parent watching his child suffer for his dream. He pleaded for his son to come home, to prioritize his health over his career. This was a bombshell. It transformed the private struggle of an idol into a public indictment of a powerful entertainment agency. Suddenly, the narrative was no longer just about an injured performer. It was about alleged mistreatment and exploitation. His father's intervention painted a picture of a young, devoted artist being run into the ground by a callous corporate machine. It was a powerful and sympathetic story that resonated with many. To them, Tao was a victim, and his father was a hero fighting for his son's well-being. This carefully constructed narrative provided the moral justification for what was to come, framing his potential departure not as an act of desertion, but as a necessary escape. In the summer of 2015, the inevitable happened. Following in the footsteps of his former Chinese bandmates, Chris Wu and Lu Han, Huang Zitao officially filed a lawsuit against SM Entertainment to terminate his contract. The K-pop world, which had already been rocked by the previous departures, was thrown into turmoil once again. However, Tao's exit was uniquely contentious. The public had not forgotten his own past words. When Chris Wu had been the first to leave, Tao had taken to social media to condemn the act, calling it a betrayal. Now, standing in the very same position, his past statements were thrown back in his face. To critics and a large portion of the Korean public, he was the ultimate hypocrite. The narrative of the suffering victim, so carefully built by his father, was challenged by a new one: the calculating opportunist. Was this really about his health, or was it a premeditated plan to leverage his EXO fame for a solo career in the lucrative Chinese market? The timing, following a well-established pattern, seemed too convenient for some to ignore. The lawsuit marked the true beginning of his double life in the public eye. He was simultaneously a beloved son who had escaped a toxic environment to heal, and a traitor who had abandoned his group and his promises for personal gain. This schism in public perception would follow him from Korea to China, becoming the defining conflict of his career and cementing his reputation as a figure who could be seen as either a genuine idol or a masterful manipulator, depending on who you asked. Leaving the scorched earth of his K-pop past behind, Huang Zitao did not retreat or recuperate. Instead, he reappeared on the Chinese entertainment scene with the force of a tidal wave, rebranded and utterly unapologetic. The speed and ferocity of his solo launch suggested a plan that had been in motion long before his official departure from EXO. He immediately established his own personal studio, a clear declaration of independence and a power move that set the tone for his new chapter. No longer just a piece in a larger machine, he was now the master of his own destiny. His debut solo music was a visceral departure from the polished pop of his former group. It was raw, aggressive, and steeped in the C-pop and hip-hop genres he clearly favored. He poured his frustrations, ambitions, and defiant spirit into his lyrics, often taking direct creative control. This new identity as ZTAO was a deliberate and stark contrast to the Tao of EXO. He was louder, bolder, and seemingly unconcerned with conforming to the pristine idol image. He was building an empire, not just a career, and his ambition was palpable. This rapid, successful pivot added fuel to the fire for those who believed his exit from Korea was a cold, calculated business decision all along. His influence quickly expanded beyond music. He became a fixture on Chinese television, taking on major acting roles and serving as a mentor on popular reality competition shows. His presence in the fashion world grew, with his audacious style landing him on magazine covers and in the front rows of fashion weeks. But the most significant move was the establishment of LTAO Entertainment, his very own company. He was no longer just an artist, he was a boss, a CEO signing and managing other young talents. This evolution from a boy band member to a business mogul was remarkable. He demonstrated a sharp understanding of the industry and a relentless drive to build his own brand on his own terms. For his supporters, this was an inspiring story of self-determination, proof that he was a true artist with a vision. For his detractors, however, it was the ultimate confirmation of their suspicions. Every success was seen as another piece of evidence that he had manipulated his circumstances, using his health as a convenient excuse to escape a restrictive contract and chase the greater fame and fortune that awaited him in his home country. His assertiveness was either admired as confidence or condemned as sheer arrogance. This new phase of his career was defined by a constant stream of public drama, largely fueled by his own unfiltered personality. His social media accounts became a battleground where he would regularly wage war against his critics. Unlike most celebrities who rely on PR teams to handle negativity, Zitao became his own attack dog. He would directly confront obsessive fans, known as sasaengs, posting their pictures and calling them out for their invasive behavior. He would screenshot and publicly shame netizens who left malicious comments. This willingness to get his hands dirty was shocking, and for many, exhilarating. His fans cheered him on for his bravery and authenticity, celebrating him as a rare star who refused to be a passive victim of online hate. But for others, his conduct was seen as reckless and unprofessional. They argued that a star of his stature should possess more grace, and that his public outbursts were often disproportionate and needlessly inflammatory, creating a toxic environment for everyone involved. He seemed to thrive in conflict, a trait that kept him perpetually in the headlines. One of the most notable examples of his confrontational style erupted in early 2024. During a music festival, he publicly accused the world-famous DJ Martin Garrix of unprofessionalism, claiming Garrix played a set filled with unpleasant sounds. The accusation, blasted across his social media, created an international incident among music fans. Garrix's team eventually responded, creating a messy public relations battle. It was a classic Huang Zitao moment. His supporters saw him as an artist with integrity, standing up for quality and refusing to stay silent in the face of what he perceived as a slight. His critics, however, saw a calculated publicity stunt. They questioned why he chose a public platform to air his grievances instead of handling the matter privately, suggesting he knew the conflict with a bigger Western star would generate massive attention. This incident perfectly encapsulated the central question surrounding him. Was he an honest idol fighting for his principles, or a cunning manipulator who understood that in the modern age of entertainment, controversy is a powerful currency? Even his love life became a topic of debate when he confirmed his relationship with Shu Yiyang, an artist signed to his own label. The dual role of being her boyfriend and her boss introduced a complex power dynamic, further blurring the lines of his public and private life and giving his critics yet another angle from which to question his motives and character. Through it all, he remains a polarizing figure, a testament to a double life so skillfully managed that it's nearly impossible to definitively tell where the genuine man ends and the public persona begins. An actor's work can be a window into their soul, but for a figure as complex and scrutinized as Huang Zitao, it often feels more like a hall of mirrors. His choice of roles is rarely just a job. It's a conversation with his own public image, a chance to reframe his narrative on his own terms. Each character he embodies becomes a reflection, sometimes distorted, sometimes startlingly clear of his own tumultuous life. It's in the space between the script and his real-world scandals that the line between performance and reality blurs into near non-existence, raising the question of whether his acting career is an artistic pursuit or the most sophisticated public relations campaign of all. He doesn't just play characters, he inhabits alternate versions of himself, using the silver screen to argue his own case before the court of public opinion. Nowhere is this more blatant than in his role as Zheng Baksu in the drama The Brightest Star in the Sky. The character is a wildly popular C-pop idol, infamous for his arrogant attitude, his rebellious streak, and his constant clashes with his management agency. He is portrayed as deeply misunderstood by the public, a passionate musician trapped beneath a difficult exterior, who ultimately reveals a more vulnerable and caring heart. The parallels to Huang Zitao's own life are so uncanny that the show feels less like a work of fiction and more like a dramatized autobiography. It's a meta-performance where he essentially plays himself, or at least the version of himself he wants the world to see. Every conflict the character faces with his company echoes Zitao's own bitter departure from SM Entertainment. Every scene where the character is hounded by paparazzi or misinterpreted by the media feels like a direct commentary on his real-life struggles with fame. This role was a masterstroke of narrative control. It allowed him to reenact his own controversies within a fictional framework, but this time, he controlled the outcome. He could ensure that his character's motives were pure, his heart was in the right place, and his rebellious acts were justified. It was a calculated act of self-mythologizing, an opportunity to launder his controversial public image through a sympathetic fictional lens, effectively manipulating the audience into seeing his story from his preferred point of view. His role as Xie Xiaofei in Negotiator presents a different yet equally revealing facet of this dynamic. Xie Xiaofei is the defiant and seemingly irresponsible heir to a vast corporate empire. He is initially presented as a hot-headed playboy, more interested in picking fights than running a business, constantly clashing with the competent female lead. This rebellious heir archetype resonates powerfully with Zitao's real-life status as a wealthy second-generation star who eventually inherited his late father's company. While his real-life business acumen is now well proven, the character of Xie Xiaofei allowed him to explore the public's perception of him as a privileged and impulsive figure. The character's journey is one of forced maturation. A family crisis pushes him to shed his irresponsible facade and reveal the sharp, capable leader hidden beneath. This narrative arc feels deeply aspirational. It is the story of a man proving his doubters wrong, of moving beyond his youthful impetuousness to embrace serious responsibility. By embodying this character, Zitao projects a path of redemption and growth that he perhaps wishes the public to see in his own life. It's a way of acknowledging his confrontational reputation while simultaneously assuring the audience that, just like Xie Xiaofei, there is a serious, mature businessman underneath it all. The role serves as a fictional promise of his own evolution. Perhaps the most poetic parallel can be found in his portrayal of Ji Zunbao, the Monkey King, in A Chinese Odyssey, Love You a Million Years. This role is pure fantasy, allowing for a more metaphorical reading of his life. The character exists in a state of duality. He begins as Ji Zunbao, a carefree and mischievous bandit leader, only to discover he is the reincarnation of the great sun Wukong, a powerful and righteous deity burdened by a divine destiny. This split perfectly mirrors Huang Zitao's public persona. The playful, chaotic, and sometimes trollish personality he displays on his social media is his inner Ji Zunbao. The ambitious CEO, the intense performer, and the global star, weighed down by the immense pressures of his fame and business, is his son Wukong. The story's central tragedy is that in order to embrace his great power and fulfill his destiny as the Monkey King, he must put on a golden circlet that suppresses his mortal desires, forcing him to let go of the woman he loves. This narrative of sacrificing personal freedom and love for a greater purpose is a powerful myth. It casts the real-life artist's struggles in an epic, heroic light. It suggests that his controversies and his abrasive personality are merely the growing pains of a man destined for greatness. A man who has had to sacrifice a normal life for his art and his empire. It is the ultimate romantic framing of a controversial figure, transforming his story from a series of celebrity scandals into a legendary tale of fate and sacrifice. Through these roles, Huang Zitao does more than act. He argues, explains, and mythologizes, leaving the world to wonder if they are watching a character on screen or the masterful performance of a man who has made his entire life a stage. From the synchronized stages of Seoul to the boardroom of his own entertainment empire in Beijing, Huang Zitao's journey has been a masterclass in ambition and controversy. He has played the victim, the villain, the hero, and the misunderstood genius, both in film and in real life. Is he an authentic artist who is simply unafraid to be himself, or a cunning strategist who has manipulated public perception at every turn? In the end, perhaps he is both. His story is far from over, leaving us all to watch and wonder. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.